Greetings, kind leaders, and welcome to another special edition of the Kind Leadership Challenge. Today is the final episode in my little introduction to the Kind Leadership Guild, my new monthly leadership development group for leaders who want to build a better world without burning out. My goal for this series has been to help you understand what the Guild experience is like, so you can determine whether the Guild might be a healing resource for you. So, to recap, Episode 80 was an overview of the Guild, including an excerpt from a recent Guild meeting. And Episode 81 was a discussion of our mission, values, and rules of conduct, as well as the process that we used to collaboratively develop them. But it occurred to me that the best way you can understand the value of the Kind Leadership Guild is to hear about the experiences of a member. Fortunately, Guild member Juanita James accepted my invitation to come on the podcast and share what she's learned from the Kind Leadership Guild. And as you're about to hear, I was in for some pleasant surprises. Joining us today on the Kind Leadership Challenge is one of the charter members of the Kind Leadership Guild that has been meeting through this summer, Juanita James. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, so glad to have you. Juanita, would you like to tell folks a little bit about yourself?
As Sarah said, my name is Juanita James. I'm Assistant Branch Manager with the Brooklyn Public Library. I've been with the Brooklyn Public Library for the past 23 years.
23 years? I hadn't realized you've been there that long. That's cool. You've probably seen a lot of changes.
Yes, I have.
Now, Juanita, I know you've been following what I've been doing online with the podcast and my, webinars and stuff like that for a long time. But a few months ago, I kind of put out a call to some of my long-term fans to see if they would be interested in helping me kind of with this pilot test of what's become the Kind Leadership Guild. And I was curious, why were you interested in joining, and kind of what did you hope to learn from this experience?
Thought learning from this experience, I wanted to join because I wanted to learn different techniques as an assistant branch manager, other people's perspective. I do have some challenges in my position, and I wanted to get other people's perspectives who are in the same field as me, and maybe some not, who can give me different views and perspectives based on my challenges and some of my achievements.
Right. And what kind of things do you feel like you have learned from your time hanging out with the other leaders in the Kind Leadership Guild?
I'm really glad that I joined because it gave me a different perspective on how to deal with my challenges. What I've learned is you can't change everybody, even though you want to.
Yeah.
You try to get people to understand your point, and then what I learned is people are not going to understand your point unless they're there with you. So if they don't understand where you're coming from, they are not going to go along or have a buy-in to your idea or your plan. And no matter how you do it, no matter how you say it, they're just not going to do it. And you're going to have to be okay with that and move on.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've learned dealing in this group and getting different perspectives on how to become a better leader and a better manager.
Uh-huh.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thanks. That sort of leads naturally into my next question that I'm sure our listeners to the podcast are curious about. What have you enjoyed about the Kind Leadership Guild, about these monthly meetings with other library and educational leaders?
As I said before, the different perspectives from different titles, academic, who's administrators, where in my job, I might not feel comfortable talking to an administrator in my organization. At least I can throw an idea off to the group, the members in the dial, and they can give me their perspective. Or, well, Juanita, maybe you should try it this way instead of this way. And I can listen and get tips and tricks, as I say, to become a better manager. And I appreciate all the honesty and the frankness and the transparency that the group gives me, allow me to be free and to be authentic.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. That's certainly something we really try hard to cultivate in there. And how I talk a lot on this podcast about kind of the importance around emotional intelligence and kind of being able to be a good manager of your emotions, because really you can only be as good a leader to other people as you are to leading and managing and understanding yourself. How has the Guild kind of helped you in those areas of kind of understanding your emotional perspective and your feelings around leadership?
A lot. At first, I was introduced to emotional intelligence. I didn't even know what it was. But when I started coming a part of the group, I started picking up books, reading articles about emotional intelligence. You talked about emotional intelligence in the podcast, and I started reading more. I started taking free classes on my own about emotional intelligence.
Wow.
And it kind of expand and broaden my horizons as a leader and a manager, even to the point where talk about the 4 stages of psychological safety. Not even some of my supervisors don't know what psychological safety means. And so it was kind of good for me to explain to them why is that important in the workplace? Why should that be included in the workplace? And so I'm glad because you was the foundation for that to help me to build that up.
Thank you. Wow. I had not heard this story before. This is awesome. I cannot believe how you've used this as a springboard. This is amazing.
Yeah. I wanted to understand what emotional intelligence was. Because like I said, I had challenges in my position and I wanted to know why. I'm always a person, if there's an issue, why? I always want to know why. Why and how can I fix it? I'm a fixer. I want to fix it. I want to get it fixed so I can go on. I don't have to do this all over again.
Yeah.
So I'm a why person. And I'm a fixer. I want to fix it and get it done. When I started, I was very frustrated. I was very angry, I guess, in myself because I wasn't getting through to certain staff members or certain people, and I was getting upset with myself because I didn't understand how to maneuver. And so I came to the group in frustration to vent. And you did allow me to vent, but then you also said, okay, now you vented. What do you want to do? Because you can't stay in the venting area. It's okay to vent, but challenge it in another way. So I try to keep that in the back of my mind when I want to vent. I say, okay, what would Sarah do?
Wow. Yeah. And, wow. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you really have taken to heart a lot of the things that we talk about in the Guild. I mean, one of our first topics, we have a topic of the month, was psychological safety. And it sounds like that really resonated with you because we had to talk about that in the context of kind of figuring out our core values that we wanted to put together as a group. And it was a group exercise because, because we're building this thing together. Yes, it's my name on top. I'm sort of the ringmaster of the circus, but we're not going to be able to get very far without everybody being a part of it. That's why it's the Kind Leadership Guild, not Sarah's leadership coaching, whatever. So you kind of shared one decision you made around shifting around kind of these feelings of frustration you were having towards looking for solutions. Are there any other kind of leadership decisions that your time in the Guild has helped you out with?
Yeah, I learned that just because a person behaves in a way that you don't agree with, it doesn't stop you from doing what you're supposed to be doing. So that's on them. You can't change them. You could suggest, you can give them tips and tools and resources, but if they choose not to do so or don't have any self-reflection, that's not on you. That's on them. And I have to continue on my journey to be a better manager for me, not for anybody else. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be transparent and understand you're not going to know everything all at once. And it's okay to say that, but have self-confidence in yourself and believe in yourself that you're one step better than you were before.
I love it. I love it. Sounds like you've really been able to put these lessons to work. And that's why I set up both the Kind Leadership Guild and the Kind Leadership Challenge, the way I have it, it's not about learning this stuff. It's about applying this stuff and taking action. And it seems like you really have taken action on a lot of stuff. And I'm just curious. I'm having this conversation with you because we're going to be opening the doors to the Kind Leadership Guild a little wider and offering more people the chance to be part of this really cool little coaching community we're building. And I'm kind of curious to your take of what would you say to somebody who's thinking about joining the Kind Leadership Guild, but hasn't made up their mind yet? It's like, it costs some money. I'd have to make sure I've got time on that Saturday to do it. Is it worth it? What would you say to them?
I was in their position, but what I've learned is you have to invest in yourself and you have to know that you're worth it to invest in. And if you believe in yourself and you want to be better, get a different perspective from people. You may not even agree with that perspective, but keep your options open, be open and be receptive to it, and then tweak it. Take what you learn, the stuff that you don't like, you throw out. The stuff that you do like, cultivate it into your own system and work it the way you see fit. It's only there to advise. It's not to, and to challenge you. Because maybe the stuff that you're doing ain't right. And it's a challenge. It's difficult. It's hard. But in the end, it's going to be worth it. So try it.
Okay. And on that note, I think you may kind of have just done it, but every week we end one of these episodes with a challenge to our folks who are listening to the show. So what would you challenge our audience to go out and do this week?
This week, try to be a listener, not a talker, and do better.
I definitely need to work on that one myself. I will be taking the challenge to listen more and talk less.
Yes. Me too, because sometimes you have what you say right there. You want to get it out before you forget. But sometimes it's best to listen than to talk because you get more information and you be better receptive to your answer.
Wonderful. I couldn't end it better than that. Thank you so much for your time, Juanita. This has been a pleasure, and hopefully we will get to do more of these in the future.
Sure. Have a good night.
If you're interested in checking out an upcoming meeting of the Kind Leadership Guild for free as my guest, head to kindleadershipguild.com to learn more about the Guild and sign up. If you're listening to this episode on or around the publication date, the next meeting of the Guild is Saturday, September 9th at 11 o'clock a.m. That said, whether or not that time works for you, you should still head over to kindleadershipguild.com and sign up. As we grow, I'll be adding more meeting times, and folks who have indicated their interest in the Guild will get early warning when new meeting times and their free guest passes become available. Thanks as always for listening to the Kind Leadership Challenge and for growing humanely, managing effectively, and creating collaboratively in your own organization. And if you know someone who might find this episode helpful, hit share in your podcast app or send them over to kindleadershipchallenge.com/82. Never doubt that day by day you're building a better world, even if you can't see it yet. So until next time, stay kind now. Oh, one last thing. If you're ready to take on this week's challenge but not sure how to start, head over to kindleadershipchallenge.com/next to download the Next Steps checklist.